of anti-fraud training and education. Together with nearly 80,000 members, the ACFE is reducing business fraud worldwide and inspiring public confidence in integrity and objectivity within the profession. The ACFE, whose world headquarters is based in Austin, Texas, was founded in 1988. The mission of the association is to reduce the incidence of fraud and white-collar crime and to assist the membership in fraud detection and deterrence. To accomplish our mission, the ACFE 1 provides bona fide qualifications for certified fraud examiners through administration of the CFE examination. 2, sets high standards for admission, including demonstrated competence through mandatory continuing professional education. 3, requires certified fraud examiners to adhere to a strict code of professional conduct and ethics. 4, serves as the international representative for certified fraud examiners to business, government, and academic institutions. And 5, provides leadership to inspire public confidence in the integrity, objectivity, and professionalism of certified fraud examiners. The certified fraud examiner credential denotes proven expertise in fraud prevention, detection, and deterrence. CFEs around the world help protect the global economy by uncovering fraud and implementing processes to prevent fraud from occurring in the first place. The ACFE Zambia chapter is there to serve and represent interests of members based in Zambia. It offers continuous education for CPE awards and facilitates tuition for those intending to study for the Certified Fraud Examiner designation. We hold various seminars and workshops as a supplement to fraud prevention, detection, and mitigation training. We do not conduct investigations as a chapter, but we have members from various investigative wings of government, auditing firms, private investigation companies, and many others that can be called upon to undertake an assignment. Our role as Zambia chapter is that of a facilitator on educational matters, member discussion forums on new developments, and as a resource center for various publications. In liaison with the global family of CFEs and the ACFE Association, the Zambia chapter has joined in spreading the news of the International Fraud Awareness Week. Various articles on the fraud prevention, identity fraud, and others have been and continue to be posted on the media. TV and radio discussions and interviews about fraud are also being organized. By the time the week ends, most of them are done. As mentioned earlier, the International Fraud Awareness Week is an opportunity for anti-fraud practitioners to share their expertise with the public on matters of fraud. With the added news media reports of many Zambian companies, individuals, and government departments becoming victims of fraud, it is imperative that we fight this scourge through shared education and training information. Plans are underway in future to have regular publications and workshops on anti-fraud strategies. The Zambia Police on its website, for example, recently published statistics of about 2,759 cases of fraud that were reported between January 2014 and August 2016. It is worth noting that this number does not include cases reported and investigated by the Drug Enforcement Commission and the Anti-Corruption Commission. Other research conducted by PwC, which is PricewaterhouseCoopers, in their 2016 Global Economic Crime Survey, they indicated that 61% of respondents had experienced some form of economic crime in Zambia. The financial services sector was found to be the most at risk about 46% of economic crime was from the financial sector. Almost 2/3 of economic crime were committed by internal fraudsters because of opportunity and the ability to commit the crime. Usually it's the people that are already in your organization that know the systems. And these are the internal fraudsters, some of them that we are referring to here. The major concern was the high reliance placed by more than 1/3 of Zambian organizations on means beyond their control to detect economic crime. Many organizations think they can do it themselves, they can investigate crime on their own, but they don't have the internal expertise in most instances to deal with crime. And this is where the ACFE Zambia chapter and their international counterparts are trying to help sensitize these organizations on how to deal with fraud in their organizations. The ACFE report to the nation's 2016 Sub-Saharan Africa edition found that initial and most common detection method of occupational frauds was tips, which accounted for 37% of all discoveries. This was more than twice as common as the next detection method, internal audit, which was only 16.2%, implying when you have auditors coming into your organizations, you feel comfortable that they've done their job and everything is done. But the statistics are showing that most information comes from tips. People who work in the organization will tip you to say there's something going on, and then the investigators or the auditors are brought in. Sometimes members of the public may observe something going wrong, and they may raise that. So these are the kind of things that help detect fraud. These findings show a need for Zambian companies to establish whistleblower hotlines for employees to report fraudulent activities. As a matter of fact, I think most international organizations now, especially overseas, they have a requirement in their corporate governance for having whistleblowers, a hotline whereby members of staff and others can call to report any incidences of fraud or suspicions of fraud in the organizations. As has been demonstrated from the statistics above, the ACFE Zambia chapter, in liaison with educational institutions, companies, and government, will be disseminating anti-fraud information in the future. The International Fraud Awareness Week is an international platform that reminds anti-fraud professionals to undertake joint projects with the public and organizations in efforts to combat fraud. I thank you for listening. I think that
and obviously, I think one of the things that needs to be noted about fraud is that core to its occurrence is this deception. And so even the statistics that have been given, when you consider the fact that its core is deception, then the statistic is not the whole picture. It's just a tip of the iceberg. But for fraud to take place, there is an environment that has to be created. And fraud experts talk about what is called the fraud triangle. And top is what is called opportunity. And then there is pressure and rationalization. So there are three things that must be prevalent in an environment. Now, opportunity is what any organization or any individual who wants to prevent fraud from occurring must concentrate on. The other two have to do with the fraudster. So opportunity is created in a scenario where there are little or no controls. So any organization must ensure that they put control mechanisms in place. And when the controls are in place, the fraudster will have some fear of either being detected before the fraud occurs. But basically, whether it's government, whether it's the private sector, they must ensure that they stop the bleeding by putting control mechanisms in place. And outside that, there is what is considered to be the other bit, the rationalization, where the fraudster must have some justification for committing fraud. Now, among the things that a person can rationalize if it's in an organization is that they will be looking at the environment. Is it an environment that is highly ethical in behavior? Or it's an environment that tolerates fraud? So, and I think, as my colleague has said, fraud includes corruption. And so if you want to deal with corruption as a form of fraud, a fraudster will rationalize if the other members of that organization tolerate corrupt practices. So those are things that need to be put in place. But I think it is important to note that deception is at the core of any fraudulent activity.
In terms of rationalization, imagine a situation whereby you work for a company and you've been working there for many years, you've been bypassed, they've not promoted you, and you handle a lot of money, you handle a lot of things in that organization. You start feeling that injustice has been done to you. So you start rationalizing, wanting to do something to justify your having been passed, because you feel you deserve that position. So a lot of people will think that by rationalizing and getting involved in deception activities, it's okay, but it's not okay. You're not supposed to take someone else's property. It's not yours. When it comes to pressure, pressure comes in a lot of ways. And sometimes management may put pressure on people to produce results within a short time. So in the process, mistakes are made. Sometimes it's not deliberate. And as a result, you end up making errors and opening the company to fraudulent activities.
We want to change people's minds as opposed to relying on controls. So we want actually the ACFE logo to be all over, to be everywhere. Changing people's minds every time that they are working. You know, it's better to have people who are right-minded as opposed to just relying on controls. Because where people actually have got where people are criminal-minded, it's easy to override controls.
I think much as you mentioned that what else apart from training, it's been discovered that most of the time when there's a fraud that has happened, it's because people were not aware of how to report it, for instance. What mechanism was there? So we are there to give details of how, you know, the best way would be for us to report. What mechanisms we can we're trying to promote mechanisms that organizations can use. For instance, we want to promote organizations that can reward the whistleblower once a case has been disseminated. And it's been discovered that once we have such strategies in place, the levels of fraud incidences, you know, they are reported and some of them get reduced because people will be now aware that fraud is on the rise. Actually, the more we disseminate and provide more awareness, the levels of fraud cases actually go up because people now have information. They know who to report to, what mechanism to use, etc., etc. So training, in as much as our role is going to be primarily focused a lot on training and disseminating anti-fraud policies and strategies that organizations can use, public and private. And your role as the leader, you have a very unique role in society where you can actually report on actual cases and give the public the information of the success rate of cases that have been reported, conviction rates, etc., etc. You have a very unique role to keep the levels of accountability high as you'll be reporting cases.
We noted and mentioned that corruption is one of the cases of fraud. Now, when you think about corruption, you find that I think it has been said over and over again that it is a cost to doing business. And not only is it a cost to doing business in that the price of an item or a project will be higher than it is supposed to be. But even the result of a corrupt project is going to be defective. So just to give an example, if there is a project which, according to a contractor, the actual cost maybe is 100 million. Now, because in trying to negotiate for that contract, the contractor must pay a bribe to somebody, perhaps of 30 million. Now, when they do their costing tells them that this project, for us to make a profit and do a quality job, we must spend 100 million. But because there is somebody else who is asking for a bribe to facilitate them to being given a project and asking maybe for 30 million, so the contractor, obviously, who is a business person and wants to make profit out of their business, will charge 130 million. Meaning, the price of that project would have shot up by 30%. So instead of the government, for instance, or a company paying 100 million quota, they'll end up paying 130. Now, if they have other competitors for that project who are charging 100 million, then that contractor, to get that job, will go ahead and maybe price it at 100 million, but they know that they still have to pay 30 million to facilitate them getting the contract. So the end result is that they will do a job that is worth 70 million, and the result is that it's going to be shoddy. So this is where you find situations whereby a project is started, and because the cost, the pricing was lower than the actual cost, they abandoned the project. And the stories that we hear is that no, they haven't been paid. When in actual fact, it's because they have overspent. And if they shared the proceeds of that project with somebody to facilitate them getting the contract, the person who received the cash will not push them to complete. So these are some of the effects. Now again, I also want to mention that you also remember that here in Zambia, in about 2005, 2006, the Drug Enforcement Commission made a number of arrests based on false claims on government. Now, the implication is that right now the government is talking about internal debt. Now, the question is, how much of that internal debt is genuine? Now, part of the internal debt could be, it's just false claims that people are making on government. There have been no deliveries, and yet government at the end of the day has to pay. Why? It is because of fraudulent activities. And so, at the end of the day, you can see that the effects of fraud in its broad context, including corruption, misstatement. Again, I think there has been talk about some organizations not paying the actual tax that is required of them. What is the reason? It's because of fraudulent statements that they publish.